sunscreen.
And learn.
And I should have worn sunscreen.
My son did that at his first football game. He was like, I got burned. I was like,
yeah, I know. I had it on my cheeks, just like that.
Okay. We will call this meeting to order. And Joan, could you please do the roll call for us?
Director Hacker?
Here.
Director Kelsenberg?
Here.
Director Petrie?
Here.
Director Porbenny?
Here.
Director Riley?
Here.
Director Batavo? Chair Sherman?
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. Okay, we'll rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Now we need a motion to approve tonight's agenda. I will make that motion if I can get a second. Director Petrie. All those in favor of approving tonight's agenda, raise your hand and say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, now we're moving on to consent. And that consent agenda will be posted. We are approving payment of invoices from August 27th, 2022 to September 9th, 2022.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Great. Okay, all those in favor?
Can I
Yes.
make a comment first?
Yes.
Yeah, I want to inform the board that this was not added till today. I was not aware of a procedure that the board had adopted in 2008 regarding disbursements, so that's why it's a little bit late for some of you to get it. So thanks, Tina, for catching that, and that's why it's a little bit late today.
Thank you. Thank you for that explanation. Director Riley?
Thank you for addressing it and being proactive with it. I appreciate you.
Okay, thanks.
Great. Okay, we have a first and a second to approve consent. Payment of invoices August 27th through September 9th, 2022. All those in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, we're going to move on to a couple action items before we get into tonight's study session. The first is Director of Schools. And we're going to go to Superintendent Mike Funk.
So we have a offer out to Dawn Lewick, who's currently a principal in Winona, Minnesota, who has significant experience in various size schools throughout southern Minnesota. In addition to that, she worked for a number of years at the district level as a title coordinator in Rochester. And we had 3 people we interviewed for the position, and they were all very strong candidates, but her references really stood out for us. So here's the situation we're in with Dawn. We want to try to get her here as soon as possible. And Winona will not post for her position to backfill her position until she has resigned from Winona, and I've advised her do not resign from Winona until you've got a position here. So we are asking that you approve her contract tonight, and it's going to be contingent upon this. We still haven't got her background check back. So we're asking you to approve her contract tonight contingent upon a clean background check. And if it is not clean, then the contract is not void. It's voided. Otherwise, we'd be looking at probably mid to late October before she could start. We're looking for an October 3rd start date at this point. So we've been without a director position, pretty much since I started here. So it's a little bit different, but that's why this isn't a consent item. It's on here as a separate action item because of the contingency piece. So what are your questions?
Questions? Oh, go ahead, Director Hockert.
So I believe this is a new position that is being created, and if you could just give us a little bit of kind of background on why the decision to do this, and
Sure.
like what will this person be responsible for?
Right. So first of all, it's a different position. The thing I want to make really clear to the board is that this is a budget neutral position. There is no increase to administrative costs to the district level. So one of the things that I try to do as superintendent is kind of put people in places where we're going to have the most success. And we had our HR vacancy that we had an HR director resign in early July, and we didn't have what I would consider a quality pool of applicants for that position. However, we have our assistant superintendent who's got a doctorate related to human resources, who has a lot of expertise in that area, and she's also got a lot of expertise in school finance. So reorganized a bit and put her in charge of really the business side of the house within the district, which left her position vacant, which we are filling with a director rather than an assistant super and executive director, because that was the vacancy that was cost-wise that was open. And really one of the things I learned many years ago from my military experience is the U.S. Army does a great job of developing leaders, and they put a lot of emphasis on leader development. I don't think we do a real good job in school systems on leader development. I think we hire people into the positions and we don't necessarily provide the most supports. So with this position, really the emphasis on this position will be twofold. One, it'll be working with our principals to help them become the best principals they can be. And that's why I really wanted an experienced principal into this position. And then the second piece will be they will be working with teaching and learning for professional development throughout the professional staff in the district. So not just principals, but what we can add to the teacher staff development side of the house as well. Not a lot of school systems are doing this, but I think it's really a way of the future. We want good leaders in our buildings, and we want to be able to support them as best as we can. And so really by hiring Ms. Lewick into this position, I think we're posturing ourselves for success in that direction. Thank you for that question.
Thank you. Director Corbeni?
Thank you, Chair Sherman. Just a quick one here in terms of, is this going to be an operational position, a director of schools?
It's operational from from what perspective, I guess?
Just what the functions will be.
Yeah, so really they are going to be, Dr. Cherry was responsible for overseeing the principals. She was responsible for overseeing the whole teaching and learning department, special education. And one of the concerns that I had when I took a look at your organization chart when I came in was your assistant soup had probably about 15 direct reports. And I think that's just too many to be effective at really helping and developing people. So this person is direct report wise, the only people who are going to report to her are the principals.
Okay.
And then I'll pick up a couple. Jennifer, some will shift to Jennifer, but that is the intent is to really put focus on principal development.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Yep.
Just for clarification, my only question was, so if we approve this tonight, the start date has the potential to start in September versus...
I'm targeting October 3rd.
Okay.
See how fast they can backfill their position.
Okay.
But she's planning on October 3rd at this point.
Okay.
And she's going to come up transition-wise next week, and I think she'll be at the board meeting on the 22nd. So that's where that's at.
Great. I guess are there any other questions? If seeing none, I'm going to go ahead and make a motion to approve this director of schools position. That's Superintendent Funk outlined. Can I get a second? Okay, thank you. Director Corbeni. All those in favor of approving this position tonight, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Dr. Funk. Our next item for discussion tonight is the bridge transition bid package. And welcome, Mark.
Good evening.
Thank you.
Chair Sherman, Superintendent Funk, members of the board. Tonight we're going to ask for approval for actually two items. The first one is the bridge transition bid package, and the second one is the bridge transition quote package, which I'll tell you about the difference here in a second. Back at our July meeting on July 21st, we gave an overview on the transitions remodel and what that would look like, and then we're going out for bids, knowing we'd be coming back here tonight for approval. On August 25th, we opened up 14 different work scopes. Of those 14 work scopes, we had one that did not bid, which is the student lifts. So we went out for quotes for that one. We actually had two bids that we rejected. We rejected the site clearing and earthwork, and we rejected the roofing bid just because those two specifically only had one bidder, and the price for those was higher than we were anticipating. So we rejected those bids and then went out for quotes for those, which will become the second action item that we'll be getting at here tonight. So the 11 remaining work scopes that were bid out on the 25th, we had very good coverage with them, meaning the number of people that bid on each of the individual work scopes had great coverage, and then the variance between the bids was good as well. So with that, those 11 work scopes, we had a budget of $2.645 million, so $2,645,000, and those bids came in at $2,601,611, so about $40,000 under budget for those specific bids. So for the first item would be accepting those 11 work scopes for the bridge transition bid package at this time. So I'll open up to any questions or comments from the group.
Director Riley.
Thank you. Looking at your expenditure approval form under the financial impact, you have listed additional costs may be incurred to remedy issues not identified in the construction bidding documents. And I thank you for putting that in, understanding that things can arise as you go here. So if this were to happen, would these costs come before the board again for approval?
If we were to exceed our budget, we would come back, correct?
Thank you. Yep. That was my
Just
question.
a follow-up question. I'm assuming, is there a contingency that you have built into this
That's
project?
built into the project, correct. So we would use some of that, but if we exceed what we came to the board for approval with the total project of being 3.8 million, then we would come back to that.
But there is some
There is a
wiggle room
little bit
there
built
for
in,
them.
correct.
Okay. Thank you for that. I'm glad to see these came a little under last week. So thank
So
you.
are we.
Great. Yes, Director Petrie.
We had discussed this at the Finance and Operations meeting, but I'm just wanting a little clarification for the public about what happened with those two bids that were rejected and then came back through the quote system, and we ended up getting them within the parameters that we wanted. So
Right.
can you just talk a little bit about how that process works and how it was that we had these high bids and then eventually we had the ones that came in according to our parameters?
So when we do estimates for any of these projects, we take these individual work scopes and kind of estimate what we think each work scope would come. And then as you open up work scopes, it's like anything, some is a little bit higher than you expected, some is a little bit lower, and hopefully that throughout the process you kind of even out within the budget. Two of the work scopes that we had were over 200% higher than we anticipated. So then we kind of dig in to say, okay, what were we missing? What weren't we seeing? And each one was a little bit different. The roofing one had some specs in there that were a little bit different interpretation in terms of, for simpler terms, in terms of how many different holes they'd be putting in to put the rooftop units in and with the roofing. So it was really just a clarification within how the roof would be constructed. And the one bidder interpreted one way, we changed it and to get more clarification to the way that we wanted that to be. And that same bidder then did put in a quote for the second round, which we'll get to in a second. So just to make sure everybody was clear of what are the expectations and specifications that we had for that. The other one was just higher than we anticipated, and we talked to the vendors to see what they were seeing, what we were seeing, and we decided to reject it because it was higher than we thought and went out for quotes for that one and got a lower price.
Thank you.
Director Riley.
I'd just like to say thank you for your diligence on this. I appreciate that.
If there are no more questions, is there a motion on the floor?
Sure.
I'll move. Okay. Director Hawker, are you moving to?
Move to approve. Yep.
Great. And Dr. Porabeni will second. Any further questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, raise your hand and say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. And you're sticking around for the quote package, Mark.
And so I'll make this one short and sweet. So this is the quote package. So those three work scopes that I talked about in the previous item, the student lifts, the roofing, and the site earthwork and clearing. We got quotes for them. We got 2 to 3 quotes for each one of those work scopes. We had anticipated a budget for those three individually to be about $75,000, and it came in at $62,031.64. So about $8,000 better than we anticipated. So I do want to remind that this is the last bid package that we have coming before you. We did have one at the last meeting for our rooftop units and door hardware. So typically we like to bring for a project one bid package all together, wrapped up nice neatly in a bow. But we wanted to get the door hardware and rooftop units. There's long lead time on those 2 items. We wanted to get those just so we can get in the queue and get those items on site sooner. And then we broke down this bid package into a bid package and a quote package to get the best use of our financial resources for our district. So with that, I would be requesting approval for the quote package for the bridge remodel, transition remodel project.
Great. I'll go ahead and make the motion to approve, if I can get a second. Okay, Director Kelsenberg, and then questions. Great. Seeing no questions, we have a motion and a second to approve the quote package. All those in favor, raise your hand and say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much, Mark. I appreciate it. So this is our first meeting, and I'm going to turn it over to Superintendent Funk. But I just want to say this is kind of new for us. We're going to be having the first meeting of every month be a little bit more of a deep dive into a certain item. We're going to kind of call this our study session. And tonight we are here to kind of start preliminarily talking about the strategic planning process that's so important for our district. So with that, I'll turn it over to Superintendent Funk.
Thank you. So what I have in front of you tonight, I think eventually here.
Didn't get down. That's not on here. Okay.
Just there you go.
Download her.
Yep. And you want to, I think just hit slideshow there. So one of the things that I have heard way back when I was speaking with you in April, I heard it, I think, a month ago, is really strong need in the district for a strategic plan, strategic framework of some sort. So I have, I spent a considerable amount of time looking at different firms out there. I met with a couple of the firms, and I just want to provide some information to the board tonight so you can provide us guidance on kind of the way ahead you want us to start going here as we go down the road to developing a strategic plan here in the school district. So basically our situation is, as it says on the slide there, Stillwater Area Public Schools in partnership with our communities, and I think that's really a key phrase there, partnership with our communities, will adopt a strategic framework to provide a basis for long-term planning and short-term operational decisions. So if we have a good strategic roadmap framework, when decisions come before this body, we can say, okay, is this aligned with where we want to go strategically as a district? Rather than, yeah, that sounds good, or okay. So it really helps provide a basis for both long-term and short-term. Helps us administratively in the short term, and it helps you as a board in the long term. So really there are 3 things that I'm going to share with you tonight, or three concepts. One, we can do this internally, and we can have the administration kind of take the lead on this. 2, we've been working with TeamWorks International for a number of years, mainly on demographic studies, but they have a strategic planning side of the house that they utilize. 3, I think 6 or 7 years ago, you used a group, Ed Leader. I think Ed Leader was the name of the conference, but the process was led by Patel for Kids, which really is the group that helped train our staff to come up with our portrait of a graduate. So these aren't groups that are. Teamworks has worked with the district. Our staff has worked with the people who put the portrait together. So that's kind of what we went with as far as what we knew. MSBA has a process. I think that might be okay for smaller school districts, but I think that we, for strategic planning, I think we should. My recommendation is we go a different route there. There are Cambrian Group is who your school district used. I think around the 2015-14 timeframe. Very detailed, almost too detailed, I think. So that was another group that we took a look at. So anyhow, I'll just give you our thoughts or some food for thought for you actually as a board as far as direction going forward here. So the first one is if we do it internally, all right, and I got positives and negatives for this. Positive, I actually have a master's degree in strategic planning, so I know strategic planning very well. We have some veteran staff members who really understand the issues of the district. We have some veteran staff members who have relations with various consultants and different constituents within the district. And bottom line, you wouldn't have to pay for an outside consultant to come in and guide the process. The negatives, if I were here 2 or 3 years already and I had a good feel for the district, I could carve out probably more time and do a better job at it. But I like to tell people, and they get sick of me hearing this, but I'm drinking from the fire hose still, learning about the school district here. So I'm still learning. So it's a time issue. We're filling some key positions, just as we heard tonight, and we're developing a new team. We're learning practices and procedures as we speak. I think if we're going to do focus groups, and I think that's going to be part of the process, regardless of what angle we go with here. I've found oftentimes they're more candid with consultants than they are working with members of the district. And then the other thing is these folks are used to doing strategic planning, the other two firms that we're looking at. And so they're more, that's what they do more day to day. And there's some positives from that. These next few slides are just some things that I am thinking about if we were to do it internally, some things that we would want to be taking a look at. And externals can look at this too, but these are things that have popped up for me, and feel free on the next slide or even on this one. Is this something we would want to revisit? Okay, we have our mission statement. I think one of the things that they do when they come in is they take a look at your mission statement. Anyone have any idea the last time we revisited this, or if there's any incentive to revisit it, or I'm just out of my own curiosity at this point, as I'm learning the district.
Did you?
I think it was done when they did the initial strategic plan back in 17, 18.
Might have been tied in with the portrait. Okay.
I personally would like to revisit it, but that's just my opinion. I think that it's time to revisit it.
Well, I mean, it's when you're doing the whole strategic planning process, it's a natural time to do it.
Right.
Before we could really plan, we'd have to buy into this. So at least we might not have to change it, but we should revisit.
It'd be a first step, I think, or a key step in the process.
Mm-hmm.
So here's what you have currently for your portrait of a graduate. And Joan, can you click on the graduate? And just scroll down there. Keep on going. Keep on going. There you go. So then click on collaborator. So for our portrait, this is what we want our graduates to have currently. They want them to be able to build strong relationships, work effectively and respectfully with diverse teams, seek out diverse ideas and perspectives, value the individual contributions made by each team member. And click on Critical Thinker. Click on Creator. So these are really kind of the basis of our students go through school and they have experiences. And when they have these experiences, we want them to be able to develop these traits as graduates of Stillwater area public schools. So this would be something, again, kind of like your mission statement. All right, this would be something we would want to revisit. And there's different ways to go about doing that. You know, I think regardless of if you say that we want to do it in the district or one of these other two groups or someone else, one of the things that they look at in today's world is what do you want the experiences of your students to be while in school? What kind of, what are they going to value while in school? And so the daily experience of the student really leads to your portrait. So go ahead back to the slideshow, Joan. So that's where you were at. And again, I think that came in, as Director Riley said, 17, 18, I think, is when I think the graduate was adopted and your current mission statement. I did it. I got it. So then, being new to the district and having conversations with a lot of folks, here are programs that we currently have that I've heard. I mean, I say, is district support consistent? I'll tell you, no, it's not. That's what I hear from people just talking to, from the number of conversations I've had. So we've got, Amigos Unidos, we got GATE, we got special education, we've got our ALC, we've got our Pathways program. I've heard 6-period day doesn't offer a lot of electives for kids at the high school. We've got Project Lead the Way in the middle school and to some degree at the high school. And then we have the AVID program. And so the interesting thing is we got a lot of these programs. The strategic question is how do they tie into these other pieces that I just shared with you on the profile of the graduate. And what do we, and so when we're talking about putting a strategic plan together, it's okay, if these are the things we value in the portrait, what are these pieces, these initiatives we have in the district, and how are we supporting them operationally, financially, to ensure that they're aligned with what we want to meet our students' needs. And then that helps you make decisions at the board level of, okay, this is important, and it just becomes a more clear-cut decision-making. Now, I put these up here because I'm a little bit familiar with them. I mean, some I'm familiar with from other places. But so though that's a value, I think, that, well, internally, we have a good feel for what's happening with these in the district. We bring in consultants from the outside. There'd be a learning curve with them. And, they would want to know the value of, okay, why is this dual immersion program important? And but that's where the community would weigh in. I just for the board, just from my perspective, am I missing anything up here as far as programming wise that are significant? I mean, we got AP, but that's again more high school related to the schedule.
I mean, I guess I might add some of our in the elementary school, we have kind of that green room, kind of that emotional support that students get maybe is
So
not up there.
social
like
emotional
yeah,
bar.
like we do those, I forget what it's called now at the middle school, but those
Okay.
mentorship programs, those, yeah.
Okay.
Web, thank you. Where everyone belongs. Web, I think Web is the middle school and Bar is the high school. And kind of some of those programs. I guess I don't know if that's a special program or not, but
But it's a program. I mean, where I would I'd ask the question: does that program impact the portrait of what we want our students to experience? And if it supports it,
I think it probably would in some
Okay.
of these areas.
but that's the direction we're kind of going.
Mm-hmm.
Where I'd like to go with it.
Yes, Director Kelsifer.
Is anything beyond the school day need to be in there? Any of the extracurricular, or is that a different category?
Oh, it could be. I mean, yeah, absolutely. Because I think your extracurricular pieces can absolutely impact what kind of education our students are receiving.
Good.
And again, these are just this isn't the final answer of anything. This is just okay. From what I'm learning about the district, these are some important things that I've heard from people talking to me. And again, I mean, and does that mean that if they're on this list, okay, these are all we got to keep them, or are there things on this list that okay, maybe we have different initiatives as far as the school district?
I don't know if this would, for me at least, and I don't know where the board feels, but for me with our special programs, we're really great at doing a lot of different programs, but I think some of what we don't do really well is that upfront planning of and I would hope that a strategic plan would guide us. So when we're looking at a special program, I mean, I like kind of what you said, where it's like, okay, does this fit? Should we move forward? It just seems like sometimes we move forward and it becomes this great initiative, but maybe we don't have the financial resources or the staffing resources that are then supporting it. So kind of hangs out there a little bit. So I would appreciate a strategic plan that went a little bit more deeper than the Portrait of a Graduate. It kind of seems a little top lined and not as much detail as I would like.
So there's other factors involved. We have an evolving demographic. So how is that going to impact future planning? Growing population, particularly in the southern part of the district. There's societal expectations of school. And by that I mean, I think we're seeing a pendulum swing where my wife graduated from St. Cloud Technical High School. We used to have in Albert Lee, Riverland Community College, many years ago, before it became a community college, was a technical school that was part of the school district. We actually hired the teachers there. So I think we are starting to see a swing back in that direction of technical education. And so when I'm talking about an evolving societal expectations, are we continuing to meet the needs of our society as it changes over time? Or do we have a cookie cutter approach? This is how we do things. So I think it's important that, one of the words that I like to use when talking about planning is agility. A lot of times we get focused on these nice big documents that are this thick that has our master strategic plan in it, and we lose the concept of being agile to adjust to what's happening on the ground and really what's happening in society. So we have to somehow have some agility built into the plan as well. And then I just put the role of technology. And again, that's just an example of evolution. It's funny. I'm going to tell you a quick story from talking to a lot of people here in the district. So evidently, back in early 2000s, there was a initiative to go like laptops in one of your schools. All right, and that just, oh my goodness, boom, that's too progressive. That's just okay. Now look where we are right now. And so again, we are society's evolving, technology's evolving. How are we embracing those changes, and how are we planning for them? Other factors, if we again, these are all. I mean, these are things that I'm thinking if we were to do it internally. How are our facilities meeting our programmatic needs? We've talked about this space a little bit, and we've got the transitions project you just approved tonight. Okay, what's next? What's the best utilization for this building? We've got the Lake Elmo building. What's the best utilization for that building? Are we looking out 5 to 10 years building wise as far as growth in the district and what the student needs are going to be? How are we currently structured? And I know you went through a boundary change, but yeah, a high school that has an alternative school within the high school is not necessarily alternative. And so are there some areas for improvement there? And then if we do look at the facilities, how are they going to incorporate growth? How do we manage that? Especially if we're growing in one part of the district and maybe not in another. How do we do that? And boundary shifts are the bane of every superintendent's existence, I think, because that is a very hard thing to lead a district through. And so you want to be able to minimize the impact on families, and how do you do this in a strategic manner that does so, while still managing your changing demographics within your school system. So those are things that I'm looking at if we're looking at doing strategic planning here internally, and how I would see that happening would be. We'd probably have a focus group of experiences for our various levels of students, our elementary, our middle, and our high school students. So various focus groups there. We certainly would have, I know you had a some team that looked at facilities. We would want to do that as part of the process, looking at our long-term needs facilities-wise. I think programs would want parent feedback on the programs that we have in the district currently. So that's how I'm viewing it if we were just to do it on our own within the capabilities that we have currently within the administration. So I met with Ray Queener. Ray used to be I think an assistant finance director in Stillwater for about 10 years, I think, 6 to 10 years. And he now works for TeamWorks. And Ray went on from Stillwater to be the superintendent up in Cambridge, Minnesota. And as I said, I think Joan looked, I think we've got 10 or 12 years or more of relationship back with TeamWorks in mostly demographic studies. But as you can see on their top slide there, they do educational leadership development, something they call classroom to boardroom, partnership leadership, and then school analytics. And we really work with them on the school analytics as far as growing and what how the district is evolving that way. But like I alluded to earlier, they are focused on the student daily experience. And so that's kind of the key thing for them. So busy slide here, but you can see that they have governance on the left, and that's the red box there where you talk about the Board of Education. And they talk about the board's roles, how they see policy, oversight, board operations, superintendent relations, and public engagement. And then on the right-hand side, you get into the management side where we get into procedures, focusing on continuous improvement, public engagement and employee relations. And so they work with school boards, they work with school administration, and really planning at different levels. So here's the process they use, and we went through this, and I would not recommend it. I don't know if you can blow that up, and I'll probably not because it's at Google. Anyhow, they use a process that there's some of it I would use, some of it I would not. The first thing that they talk about is assessing our reality, and what they like to do there is go back and look at the history of the district. And I don't want to look at the history of the district right now. I want to be looking forward. And I think it's important to be aware of the district's history, but I don't want to spend a lot of time, rehashing what has occurred here. And so, really, where I'm focused with them is, as you can see on the right hand side, and we'll send this out. C, D, and E, really talking about the desired daily experience for our students and our staff. The vision card, which is really how are you evaluating the performance of your school, and then the strategic planning piece at both the operational and the school district level. And so what Teamworks would do is they would have focus groups that would meet with families in the district, staff in the district, students, to get, okay, what do you want your experiences to be for your students? And then they would bring that back, and then they would work with the administration and the board on developing planning to kind of lead to those experiences. And then they have they evaluate how you're doing with this vision card, which I'm not real familiar with. That would be news to me as far as how that operates. And then they also can work with the board if the board chose on guidance on strategic governance and leadership. So I would not recommend we do this whole. I think we could do pieces of this that could help us out as a district. I don't think we need to go the whole 9 yards on this. And when I asked the question, could we take pieces of this, they were agreeable to that. It wasn't a all or nothing type package. So Teamworks, I didn't put plus or minuses. I just put here's what I could tell you about them. Their consultants know the district. They would provide focus groups. They would provide a baseline and identify any gaps that the district may have in meeting the needs of the students. That's another thing. When you bring somebody in from the outside, they can see sometimes some holes that we internally can't. They would assist in the development of a strategic roadmap. They'd work on a 3-year strategic plan with the administration based upon what the board decides at their level, and then monitor that with the scorecard. And they could work, if the board so chose to work with you on structures and governance procedures. So that's what Teamworks would be. And again, this would be outside consultants, Minnesota-based.
Director Riley, do you mind if we have a question?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Before I was on the board, I was pretty active as a community member, and I went to all of the learning sessions and board sessions and that were presented early on, and Teamworks was very heavily involved. I like what you said about not going backwards and moving forwards, moving the district forwards. It gives me a little pause, they do, because of things that I've heard them say in public meetings regarding divisiveness. And so I have a little bit of concern that we're not going to end up going backwards, utilizing them as our consultant.
That's good feedback.
Yeah, that's just my concern. It
Okay.
was prior to me being on the board.
Okay.
Does anyone else have any feedback?
So this next group is called Batil for Kids. They are a nonprofit national organization, and again, I think they were the group that helped train the staff to develop the portrait of a graduate. And I met with them, and they actually gave me a very detailed, here's what we can do to you here, and I've just taken bits and pieces of that and cut and pasted them in. But I think what I want to show you here is a video from a superintendent somewhere else in the United States, and she just talks about what, and it's just over a minute long. She talks about what this group does for her district. And if you can read sign language or lips, I should say.
Good thing John's here.
Good thing we got the tech guy here tonight.
No pressure.
She's talking fast too.
I don't think this adapter is
Okay.
Give me
All right.
1 second, and I'll put the sound on the microphone.
Okay.
Well, our mission is right in front of us. So I think it's really important for boards too. Really important. That's great.
Can you hear that?
Not
We've
very
got
well.
two new school buildings, and Colin's actually working. So one of those schools, we're combining two schools, which is really a tough thing for very big. And for me, it's been great and for boardsmanship. And we didn't really talk about that too much. Our board is very focused on our portrait and very focused on our strategic plan. So when the shiny thing comes along that we all want to go and do, that portrait, that strategic plan redirects us and reminds us that we are here for these specific purposes, and that the shiny thing might be incredible, but that our goal, our mission is right in front of us. So I think it's really important for boards too. Really important.
That's great.
Yeah. We've got two new school buildings, and Colin's actually working. So one of those schools, we're combining two schools, which is really a tough thing for very, very veteran staffs. So Colin's been working with those two staffs to come together to make their own little vision statement. And, you know, it aligns with everything. And here's the thing, if they came together, that would still be good work. But because we have the portrait to drive the work, I don't have to worry. I don't have to worry about, oh man, are they going to come up with some, some plan that's not our plan? They won't, because our plan is everybody's plan. So, yeah, good stuff.
It really does help bring the district together into focus with that one.
Common language, common words, common actions, and always taking us back to, is this part of the strategic plan, or is this something that just is shiny and, really sounds like a great idea? Will this benefit kids?
So I think one of the key phrases you heard there was common language. And from my experience, the most successful systems have something they call coherence, where everybody's on the same page, top to bottom throughout the district. And that's really what this group, I think, would do. And that's what they promised they do. So they do it. It's comprehensive. Not only do they work with you on the portrait, which would be the first step in the process, they would then work on the strategic plan that is, shaped around the portrait. They're a national firm. They're a proven concept that work with a wide variety of community groups throughout the United States. They're a nonprofit. I think I mentioned that. And they also provide ongoing professional support to the administration through what they call Ed Leader 21, which is a cohort of districts throughout the United States that have adopted portraits of a graduate. So that's a little bit about them. So basically, here's what. Oh, didn't I get that out of order? I think it's out of order. So they would start off in December. He said December, November. He said, "You just tell me the start date." So he plugged in December here, and so they got design team meetings where what are we looking for from the district? What do we want them to do when they come in? And then you can see that they're talking about, okay, what do you necessary competencies on what we want our graduates to be. So that these would be in-person meetings that they would be facilitating. And then there, you can see there's a virtual meeting in there. These other pieces are negotiable because we have a communications department, but they have graphic design, communications toolkit. So this would be the full deal. Then it goes on to the strategic design piece of it, which would be Patil for Kids facilitates a meeting. You know, we talked about SWOT analysis way back when I was meeting with you back in April. Impact upon your portrait on your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats in the current environment. In May, they would meet with some team we design or that we pick in the district here to work together on components of the strategic plan that they've gotten from feedback from focus groups in the community. And then at some point here, we bring it to the board for your approval. So I think this piece is comprehensive. My concern with them is they're so comprehensive. I'm a little worried about this. And so that's pretty much what I know here as far as the groups.
Did you get a sense from them? I don't see a lot of incorporation of community student input.
The third bullet there, proven concept that works with a wide variety of community groups. Mm-hmm. They're really purposeful. He really emphasized that in the conversation. We want to get as diverse perspective. They're talking about meeting with church groups, businesses, if you have colleges in your community, of course, your parents, your students, your staff. So they were more focused on that they had a good plan for wide outreach. Where I think with Teamworks, it was your parents, maybe some businesses, but your parents and your students are really your focus and your staff. So that's what I know to this point in time as far as different options available to you as a board. I could continue to explore or, just want to gain your thoughts on what you've seen tonight and go from there.
Yeah, Director Hawker.
So is that timeline just for the Patel kids?
That was their choice of a timeline.
Their timeline.
Yeah, I didn't weigh in on it. He said, "What day do you want to start?" So.
Is there a similar? Can you give us a ballpark timeline for if we did this internally versus if? I don't know if we have one from Teamworks, but just for comparison.
So Teamworks really, the slide I showed you there, they have different components. It's kind of a menu option. So Teamworks could be shorter because we would just say we want to do this, and then maybe in 6 months or a year we want to do this. You can do different pieces of it over time. Whereas I think Patil has it laid out. The caution I would give you if we do it internal is it's just how fast I feel comfortable getting up to speed with the district. When we do it internal, and I'm saying we can, but when we do it internal, there's opportunity cost. All right, so what am I gonna, not do? So But the internal, I could do it fast, but as fast, the best.
And yeah, go ahead, Director Petrie.
Yes, in terms of the timeline, I think one of the things that we need to consider too is that in January we will have, at least 2 new members at this table, and so, if we're going to sort of straddle that in terms of the involvement of the board, that might not be the best use of resources. So, I mean, if there can be some information gathering or working with other groups to do, information gathering from students and families and whatnot, that yet this year. But I'm not sure if we want to have 2 separate boards involved in this process.
Makes sense.
Yes.
Go ahead. I'm still
Director Provine.
formulating.
Thank you, Chair Sherman. Just a quick one here. Does this include, what is the support? Is the support just to design? Or will it go beyond just design and a supporting in designing the strategic plan? The implementation and the action-based outcomes with respect to the plan. Are they going to be involved in this as well?
So, the conversation with Batil for Kids, they will work with the district to create this, and they want the district to own it. And the feel I got was they have this network, this Ed Leader 21 cohort, which is kind of their PD side of it. So I don't see directly from Batil for Kids the ongoing support. I think with Teamworks, they want to help the district craft a strategic plan 3 years out. Let's say 3 to 5. I think 5 years in this environment is just too long. That's just my own experience from planning. I mean, 5 years for facilities, yes, but for the operational side of it, I think that's too long. And what they talk about is ongoing support as you refresh because once you build your 3-year plan, you should be refreshing it year to year. And so it's always a 3-year plan. And they talked about ongoing support of that. What that means or what that looks like, I'm not sure.
So no implementation support. Could that?
Yeah, they would help. They would have a consultant
Okay.
who would help with the implementation. Yes. Yep. They would.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Director Kelsenberg.
Couple of questions. Teamworks, I'm guessing, is more of a local operation,
Yes.
and Patel is
National.
national. And if you have one or the other, do you get a person? Do you get a team? Do you get like one guy that's kind of really in charge and really spent a lot of time with you? How?
I think you get somebody in charge, and I think you get a team both. But I think there's a go-to consultant that you utilize, but there's usually a team that works with them.
Okay.
Yes, Director Petrie.
As I consider these options, I think the one that is least attractive to me is the one with doing it internally. Even though, you have a master's in this, I just feel as though there is so much on our plate right now. You are new because of some of the things that have happened in this district over the last couple of years. We have a lot of new people in leadership in this district, and I just think that trying to get us back on track and address some of the big issues that we have in front of us right now, like achievement, for instance, that should be the focus of most of your time. And I would just prefer us to use a consultant for this for that reason. Now, in terms of the 2 that you brought to us, I mean, I know that we have gotten some really good work from Teamworks over the years. And I know they have some really good people, on their roster. I don't know that much about Battelle, frankly. And so, I guess I would be interested in knowing what your thoughts are between those 2.
Okay. I think if you go with the Battelle route, you're going to get more of a turnkey, top to bottom. We're going to lead you through the process. I think if you go Teamworks, you're going to get a smorgasbord option of what you need, where you think your district needs some support. So those are the two pieces in my mind. I, you know, I to Director Riley's point, I'm not aware of the history at all with the Teamworks piece. That would be something I'd want to dive into a little bit here, because what we want is, and the reason I suggest an outside consultant, I think there's some credibility there, and I don't want to bring in an organization where there maybe is not some concerns that they're not credible. So that would be something I would want to dive into a little bit, that could be okay. Maybe the consultant they used could be just, it could be that, or I don't know. And are there others out there? There are, but again, I think that one thing we could do to your point, Director Petrie, is we could continue to look, and when the new board comes in January, go at that point, or we could start to have some sort of focus groups. We could put a design team together. I'm not saying redo the old community design team, but a group to help us look at the facilities part of it. We're already doing demographic studies. So we could do pieces of this so that we would be setting ourselves up for more success long term. So those are my thoughts.
Director Hawker?
Kind of taking off that last question, and the way you answered the differences between the two consultants as well. Is there a big difference in price point if we do, for instance, Teamworks, if we kind of pick and choose versus one package?
I think Teamworks would be considerably less expensive simply because you're flying in national people, and that's going to be more money.
Yeah. Director Kelsenberg?
I would imagine there'd be some kind of a hybrid type operation. So internally, you get your master's degree, but I'm sure that you bring this group in. You're not just going to say, "Hey, see you in the spring. Give me your answers." Then you're going to be working with them. You're going to steer them along the way with what you know. Do you see one that you could probably work easier with?
I know a bunch of the people on Teamworks. I mean, I just do from prior. I met with Ray Queener. I've never really had the longest conversation I ever had with Ray in my life was when we were talking about this. So, I know who he is.
Okay.
I know some other people within that group fairly well. I know them. Coming from the outside, it's if we went with the national group, wouldn't know them at all.
Director Pobetti?
Thanks, Chair Sherman. Thank you for that. It looks like, and correct me if I'm wrong, it looks like regardless of which one we use, apart from the price points, we will get some good quality work.
I think so. Yeah, I think we'll have a good framework to operate from.
Okay, so personally, I think we should probably look at the one that is most cost effective. They have already shown some good track record within. It would be nice to hear more what the concerns are, so at least we know what is out there. But I think with the track record that they already have, personally, it would be unwise to spend that kind of money for an organization. It's, really, if we're getting just as good a quality from the other smaller organization at a reasonable cost to the district, I personally think that you go with who you know, and especially with what they've done in the past. And with your experience, at least you'll be able to work with the group to bring to terms what we're looking for.
Okay.
Because strategic planning, it's not just the design itself. The implementation is important, and you also want to have someone who is very knowledgeable in that area. you may have a consultant, and if the person requesting it is not knowledgeable, you can be given things that you probably don't even have an idea as to how to implement. And so I think your knowledge there will be of great use and extremely important at no cost, really,
Yeah.
to the district. So,
Any other comments? I think when I listen to this presentation, I tend to, I mean, I think there's no reason why a national organization couldn't bring a good plan to us. I don't know if the community would feel as bought into the process as if it might be local. I don't know. I just worry when they're out of state and then we're Zooming and, there's something nice about having someone that is vested in physically here. I know that Zoom has come a long way and we can do a lot really well. But I do think the price could skyrocket pretty quickly just with travel if we wanted to have people in person. So that does worry me.
yeah.
I mean, we have time, so we could look at other local firms too. I don't know if it would be appropriate to look at more in depth at what Teamworks would do, or for you to look at maybe, because what I see the advantage is I see that we can kind of cherry pick. So what we want to do, and so where you feel comfortable kind of coming in with your significant strategic planning background, there might be pieces that you can say, my team and I can do that,
Right.
And so there might be some efficiencies there. And I personally, I don't want this, like you're saying, like I don't want this, but I want more than a
On a one-page piece of paper.
yeah, I want to really develop some benchmarks and some processes for how we measure the success qualitatively and quantitatively in our programs. I think that's something that's been lacking, and we're kind of floundering. And I think some of our recent achievement reflects that. So I'm really looking forward to this because I think it's an opportunity for us all to kind of coalesce around a shared vision and really dive deep into how to accomplish that. So. Great.
Okay.
Great. And I do agree. I mean, I think that we'll know the results of the election in November. There's some work, like you said, that maybe we can start doing. Even the recent report that we had, I know it's not scientific because it was opt-in, but maybe there's some information that we can share and get some efficiency in that study that we just did about why people are leaving. Some things that maybe there'll be some built-in efficiencies in some of that work that's already been done. So, great. This is very helpful.
Okay.
Any other questions? I'm sure we'll continue to hear more. So,
All right. Thank you.
great. Thank you. All right. Now, our next topic, we're going to go to Joan Hurley, and she's going to talk a little bit, her and I suppose our superintendent as well, both on BoardBook. And this, I don't know, this is going to be kind of a new way of organizing our agendas and our meeting minutes for kind of greater efficiency for staff, we can stop kind of binding meeting minutes. I'm sure you might cover that in hardcover books and kind of get into the technology age here.
Okay, yeah. So BoardBooks. This is our first meeting using BoardBook. So I don't know if you've noticed during the meeting on the screen, when I'm on one subject, it'll move to the next. So as board members, hopefully you all had a chance to go on, log in, and it's a login page. This is what it looks like for board members. So when you go on, this is your home screen. When you pull it up, it'll show here all the meetings listed right now. This is our first one, so then the next meeting will come up and you'll be able to pull that one up. So when you click on the meeting, you'll be able to view the meeting minutes. And then you'll see over here it has all of the agenda items. You can follow, if you click follow, I'm leading the meeting, so when I click on it, it automatically will go to whatever item I'm on. If you want to unfollow, you unfollow me, and then when I click, you won't see it. But you can always click to follow, unfollow, so we can follow together on the agenda. So pretty simple there. And then on BoardBook's a big thing, this question mark. Under BoardBook Help, there is a lot of videos on just viewing meetings, how to view and follow meetings. That's a good one to take a look at if you haven't looked through these. But it has a lot of stuff for you and me, just to go through and look at board books, how it works. If you have any questions, you can also do the question mark at the little spyglass. If you want to search for something, you can search.
So one of the nice features is if you want to, let's just say you want to look at something related to the word calendar, you can go to the question mark and click calendar, and it'll pop up. I think my previous district has been on BoardBook since like 2013 or 14. It'll pop up minutes of every meeting where the word calendar was. So if you're looking for something an agenda item from way back, you can, and you know what it was about, you can type it up and boom, it'll help you pop up a lot sooner. So that's an efficiency. The other thing that Chair Sherman mentioned was we currently store printed minutes of every meeting in leather-bound books that we put into a vault at Central Services Building. By doing this electronically, we don't have to pay that anymore. So there's an efficiency there, and I don't know. So I was really surprised to see that, but that's just that's where we're at. So
Yeah, I was surprised. I never knew that. One question I had, I'm sorry, really quick. There was, and I don't know, Joan, I know Joan is new to this too, so it's not like she's teaching a master's class. It's going to be a lot of just all of us figuring it out. But there was a notes feature in
There
here.
is right here, this little, you look there, there's notes, and you can take notes for yourself. Just know that anything on here, it's public, it'll be saved on board books.
Okay, that's what I was, okay, perfect. Director Petrie.
I had a question follow up on what you just said about the like if you wanted to search for something that had, calendar. So are all the agendas from the past going to be in this system? So you're nodding and Joan is going no. So
Well,
ruh-roh.
so when you go on our website, if you go on to
your agendas won't be prior to September 8th.
Okay. So
going
forward,
all
yes.
I'm thinking back 10
that
years.
search feature is not going
Not
to
for your current, correct.
Okay.
So not for the prior to today. Your other ones will not be searchable like I explained it to you.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Good question.
Thank you.
But when you go onto the school board website,
It's all still
in
there.
the middle, you'll see there's agenda items. I should go to the page before this.
So under archived materials,
if you click there,
so you'd have to go there to search.
you'll come up with all of the previous meetings right there.
Okay.
So they're all saved on there. Otherwise, to go to the new is here. And so then when you're on here, as public looks at it, they can click on the agenda and they will see the agenda like we see, and you can show everything or you can pick what you want to see. So when they show everything, it'll show any attachments.
So just to give you an example of an efficiency. So go down to like bridge transitions bid package. All right, so we may get different documentations that are coming in, pieces of documentation after the board packet goes out. And so if that were to happen, what Joan has to do is go in, replace the old document with the new document, save it, rescan it, and then share it again. In board books, if we need, the bridge transitions expenditure form is bad or it's inaccurate, she can go in and just replace that form, and that's it, and it's done. Or Mark could go in and replace that form, and it's done. So it has the ability to just do individual pieces without having to redo the whole packet.
Yes.
And to that point then, how would we find out that things have changed or there have been additions? Because if we've reviewed the packet, let's say 5 days in advance, then how are we supposed to know that there are changes?
They would be on Joan to update the board saying, FYI, this has changed.
Okay.
Yes, Director Kelsenberg.
Would we then run the meeting like we're doing now via BoardBook? Because currently we have a long PDF and I just scroll and scroll. So would we replace that with the BoardBook?
Yep.
At a certain point?
Well, it is. So now when you log in, if you want to follow on yours, you can follow me.
Right now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I need to have a couple.
The other thing you can, I believe it does have the option to print a PDF of it within BoardBook. Yep. And so then if you want to continue to follow the old way, you can do that.
One thing that I liked on this, and I hope and I would encourage staff to utilize it, is I like the ease of the description, where not only do we still have those forms that should have some of the details, but there is a way that you can set up, and I know you were talking about this, Dr. Funk, just saying that you can, in the description, you can add little details that might help aid our understanding or aid the public's understanding of what's in front.
So I could do that within consent or really any of the items within the packet.
Yeah, I like the idea of that added transparency for both the board and the community's sake, and just a further understanding. So, yes,
That's a quick one here.
Yes, Dr.
Can
Peretti?
can you use a note session when you make changes to any of the documents and just put that information in a note session so that way too we can see what was changed instead of sending an email to all board members?
Yeah, there's got to be a way we
Oh,
can
you
do
mean
it.
if I put notes in mine and then you would get
No, if
updated?
you make changes to the document. I mean, I think the question was asked and you said you'll let us know
Mhm.
the changes. Can you do that by just putting some in
Putting a note in
session?
board books that you would get it and get like an email verification. I'll check. I'm not sure if that's a possibility.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
Any other questions?
No more.
Great. I mean, I'm sure we'll have more, and we can kind of use the question mark feature and. And
Just
reach
one
out
other
to
thing
them.
with the public too, when they're on, and I think I kind of showed you that. When you're on on our website, they can view it as a projector too, so they can follow like you can follow. So it says agenda on the right or projector. If they hit projector, then they can follow when I change it as well.
Oh,
It's
nice.
a good one. Yeah.
One question I had, and it's actually for Director Hockert. I know she uses this and has used it in 916. Do you find anything helpful that you would want to share with us, or that you find yourself using? Or not to put you on the spot, I didn't tell you I was going to ask you that. So, but I figure, do you like it?
I do like it, actually. Okay. We've used this for about a year now. We switched over last year from the good old packet to electronic version. And I really enjoy the follow function. And it's just nice to have everything flip through. And I also enjoy the print function for pulling up some presentations because I like to handwrite notes. So that's that little gear thing in the corner. I can show anyone if they're looking for that. But it's a good system. I enjoy it.
Great. All right. If we don't have any other questions, that is the extent of our study session. So we can be adjourned. Thank you.